right. Well, listen, we got to talk some sports here.
Let's do
JP. it. So let me do it here, and then we'll get back in the headlines coming up in a second. But it's funny. I was thinking about Doug Pederson coming back. Right. It's like, all right, it's not the first time he's back to Philly, but he's also a Super Bowl winning coach. Doug Pederson won a Super Bowl and made a lot of big decisions in the Super Bowl to win one of the best games ever in the Super Bowl and to bring Philadelphia their first championship or their first Super Bowl ever. And he was kind of like then gone. It was really weird, right? So remember when they hired Doug? They were interviewing everybody, and they hired Doug Pederson, or they interviewed Doug Pederson, and they were so impressed with the interview, they immediately started calling everybody else. They called Tom Coughlin, they interviewed him, and that was a bad move, or wouldn't have been a good idea. So they're like, oh, we don't want him. But they ended up going back to Doug, probably on the recommendation of Andy Reid, and said, hey, hire him. And right away, he was getting killed. He was a dummy. He was a dope. He's never called plays. He doesn't know what he's doing. I remember doing a show during his first year thinking, or a lot of people were saying, and this just isn't fan stuff, there's a lot of questions whether he was going to make it past 1 year. Mm-hmm. And then the team kind of, they rallied towards the end of the year. And then 2017 happened and they won the Super Bowl. And now he was a genius again. It's like, oh, big balls, Doug, going for it on fourth down, making this call, making that call, right? And then, like the following year, make the playoffs, losing the divisional round. Following year, losing the playoffs. Carson Wentz is injured. And then he's done. The following year's a total disaster and he's done. So he goes from being an idiot to the smartest guy in the world to being dumb again, right? And now he's in Jacksonville. I don't think he makes it past this year. Look at Nick Sirianni for a second. The Eagles were like, who the hell are we going to hire for this head coaching job? They plucked Nick Sirianni for an interview. He's on vacation with his family. He doesn't have any clothes to interview. He's got to go to Ross or TJ Maxx to get a suit off the rack to have the interview with Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. He gets the job. And the first press conference, oh my God, this guy is in way over his head. Deer in the headlights. We know it. We know the press conference. And he wasn't just ripped locally. He was a laughingstock across media, across the NFL. And then look what he did. Takes the team to the playoffs. Gets to a Super Bowl and comes that close to winning a Super Bowl. And then last year, they fizzled at the end of the year, but they still got back to the playoffs. Right there, they're 5-2. Nick Sirianni has went from laughingstock idiot, may not make it out of the first round of the playoffs, to genius. His team plays for him. His guys play for him. He makes ballsy, good decisions. Really underrated. He doesn't get enough credit to he's a horse's ass, and let's get him out of here. So Doug Pederson, Nick Sirianni, it's like these guys are on the same track. Didn't believe in him, idiot. Super Bowl, idiot. Right? So where does it go here for Nick Sirianni? I have a really good feeling with this team and a really good feel for this team right now. I don't know if the rallying point of the season, we talked about it here on Philly with Jon Marks, that if the pivot point or the turning point of the season was the yelling at fans and completely having a bizarre press conference to where Sirianni got crushed for a couple days locally and nationally. Things like that can bring a team together. So if the younger players in the locker room, maybe it's even Jalen, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, the young players on defense, Brandon Graham, the veteran players, they kind of get this sense like, hey, coach is really getting a raw deal right now. He doesn't deserve this. This isn't right. That's what happened with the Flower speech from a couple years ago. And I talked to Brandon Graham about this personally, where he said that we felt like that he was getting a raw deal. He was getting disrespected because we knew what he was saying with the Flowers, and it made sense to us. So could this be the turning and the pivot point of this season? Well, here's the other thing that's happened. This defense is really good. This defense and this young defense is really, really good. And Jalen Hurts looks like the Jalen Hurts that we saw developing in 2022 as a passer. And, they have skill guys on offense that really matter. And now they have Saquon Barkley. So this has been a interesting couple weeks. But now, JP, you have the Jags. No one's expecting them to lose this game, and they better not. I don't even want to hear this being called a trap game, because if they can't put the Jags away, then I don't know what to tell you. And then you have the stretch of the season coming up where you have Dallas, you have Washington, you have the Ravens, you have the Rams. This is the gauntlet that we talked about last year. This is the gauntlet for 2024. And I feel pretty good heading into it. Let's talk on Monday after they play the Jags, but I feel pretty good heading into it, and I feel good as an Eagle fan right now.
No, you're 100% right, man. Like, obviously, they're coming off 2 really good performances, and you just want them to keep the ball rolling. And you mentioned it, the schedule is pretty favorable. So this is where you definitely want to get those wins before you have to go down to Baltimore or go over to LA, which doesn't seem, or go play the Commanders on a short week, which just doesn't seem like a very simple task here. But I love how the way you kind of opened this up, because look, it's Doug Pederson. We all know who Doug Pederson is here in this city, right? It is crazy though when I think about it though, John, because in hindsight, like Andy Reid was here for what, like 14 seasons, and this fan base, I still hear people say like, I wish we had Andy Reid right now, and it's like, were you there for 2012? Were you there for 2011? Like,
I hate that as well.
It was going down. And listen, Doug Pederson did bring us that Super Bowl, but the one thing that really did kill him that 2020 year, obviously everything kind of imploded, but for him to come back for 2021, Jeffrey and Howard are like, okay, so what's your plan? What are the coordinators? And you're going Press Taylor and Burke, and they're like, yeah,
that's not going to work.
We're good. Yeah, well, we're going to move on from that. But it's funny because you bring up Nick Sirianni, and there's a lot of similarities with Nick and Doug Pederson. But I think the big one is, John, is the yes man, right? Like, that's the whole mantra. Nick Sirianni being the yes man. Doug Pederson back then, it was, can you be that yes man? And I mean, even look at it right now. Nick Sirianni, like, what is his actual voice within this team? Obviously, Kellen Moore runs the offense. Vic Fangio runs that defense. Nick Sirianni don't F things up. And look, these past couple of weeks, obviously, we all make the joke about the bald head, but I just think it's a couple of things. It's actually realizing what kind of team you are, whether that be on offense, running the ball, or whether it be on defense, relying on those young players. And their confidence is just brewing because, look, they get some good wins, and it's just building up their confidence. And this week, you're right, John, there's no excuses. The Jags are a mess. I know it feels like they're picking it up, and Trevor Lawrence may, but at the end of the day, you should be able to handle the Jacksonville Jaguars at home, especially it's going to be emotional at the Link on Sunday too, man.
Sweep the leg, put them away early, and that's it. And the game's over. They did that the last 2 weeks. I had my feet up. I was watching Red Zone in the second half or in the fourth quarter. There was no worries. I'll take one more of those because you're not going to get them the 4 weeks after that, the 4 games after that.
We all silly like the mayor.